Hey everybody, ronarray here, and my build progression with my martial artist monk build is going pretty great. There have been a few changes improving survivability and damage, and right now build feels absolutely amazing for all type of juice content. Right now we can get more charges and free Trinity aura, improving our damage significantly. You can also use the same tag for a different type of auras if you like. Feel free to subscribe to the channel if you appreciate the tech breakdown for builds, and let's go. So first, let's talk about the free aura that we can get. We can get that aura from Absent Amulet right here, which as you can see grants skill level 18 Trinity. So instead of just getting the amulet, which will have a lot of spirit, we can get the amulet which will give us free Trinity, practically saving 100 spirit, which is absolutely amazing. At the moment those amulets rising in price. So if you can't afford one with +3 level of all melee skills, you can always take +2 or just a critical bonus damage even. Or if you wanted to do it on a budget, you can just take the same amulet which cost approximately 8 divines at top. So if you can afford it, I definitely recommend to run such amulet instead of basic variation with the spirit. Since you'll have a free Trinity, you can drop Trinity from the build completely and just use 3 30% auras instead. At the moment I'm using Ghost Dance with cooldown recovery and clarity, I'm using Herald of Ash, and I'm also using Wind Dancer with a pretty cool tag connected to the charges. Right now, let's talk a little more about the charges. At the moment, I added a few different ways to generate charges on top of what we already have, just to make sure that charges in the maps are always staying up. And first tag for the charges is Wind Dancer Elf Chimes. So at the moment, if you will add Culmination to Wind Dancer, start with that, it's going to generate combos from the moment when you're just using your Whirling Assault. And after that, you can also add Elf Chimes too, so every time when enemies are hitting you and you're generating waves with Wind Dancer, you're going to generate charges. It's helping a lot to make sure you have uptime in almost all situations, especially on a budget. So I definitely recommend that combo. For Wind Dancer I have Blind, I have Maim, Culmination and Elf Chimes combo too. So Wind Dancer also provides a pretty nice bonus to evasion, and I'm currently reaching 60%, which feels absolutely great for it. We can still use our Hollow Focus technique to get charges when you're starting the boss fight with skill in Palm. I still recommend it, I think it's a very nice tech, especially helping you against bosses with longer stages. So just Hollow Focus, Magnified Area, Cooldown Recovery, Close Combat, Blind and Culling Strike. And the last part is running the gloves with chance to gain a power charge on critical hit. Since the critical hit for the build should be pretty high, I definitely recommend to run such gloves. Especially if you're not running other options which is like Unix. So at the moment you can practically lose some damage if you like, but get Arcane Surge on your gloves. Your gloves without equipping them should look like that. Chance to gain Arcane Surge when you deal a critical hit. Keep in mind that to get Arcane Surge desecration option, which is Kurgal, is practically possible only on the base which has energy shield on it. So it should be evasion energy shield, just energy shield or armor energy shield, in case if you decide to just roll those gloves yourself. So getting critical damage bonus is pretty nice but not mandatory, and higher tiers of Fire, Lightning and Cold is a nice option but not mandatory as well. Just get the gloves according to your budget. As a rune, in the gloves I currently recommend Emergent Possibility because it's providing a very decent amount of additional damage and feels pretty good in the gameplay. Another big change is swap in the Ascendancy. At the moment I decided that Hollow Resonance is not really proccing that often, and it would be nice to have additional bonuses from Runic Meridians instead. We're also getting +5 all attributes small point right there, and I absolutely think it's worth it. So looking at the variations with Runic Meridians, I'm currently running 5% movement speed for the boots. Right here for the gloves I have increased magnitude of non-damaging elements you inflict, and in the gloves themselves it's Emergent Possibility. In the body armor I have Creation, Rune of Ward and 50% reduced effect of curses is pretty great. And I also have double runes just for resistances to compensate for swapping the rings and using other items a little differently. And another interesting topic is a belt. As a belt, I'm still using Chevron Satchel. However, keep in mind that if you have Headhunter or Mageblood even available, feel free to use it just fine. But that budget belt been carrying me just fine through all juiced content in the game, and there's not a single issue with that. Another important part for your survivability is using the anti-slow charm together with anti-freeze and anti-stun. That's going to help you a lot to not getting slowed, to not getting frozen, and to not getting stunned. Those charms are heavily recommended, and I think that's a very cool feeling. Since right now we have significantly more charges, we can also utilize Hollow Form more often, especially in the harder encounters when we're clearing harder things such as Abyss or Ritual or Breach even. So for that, it's also pretty important to fix your mana. First off, I recommend to get some physical damage leached as mana on the ring. And I'm still using just normal flask with mana instead of Leviangas, because I believe that just spamming that flask to get like higher recovery, which is applied instantly, is working pretty nice, even if it's not going to be too high of a level. It's still helping out when your mana falling off for no reason at all in the middle of the fight. Another big upside of constantly having power charges is not just spamming Hollow Form when you need it, but also having a very good uptime for charge stuff. So at the moment, I definitely recommend to use charge stuff more often if it's not ruining your Trinity bonuses. Just check out how much damage you're receiving and which damage is behind. And using the charge stuff together with prolonged duration, Culling Strike, and thing like a blazing critical can give you a pretty decent additional damage here and there. If it's not ruining your Trinity, I definitely recommend that. If it is, just check what damage is falling behind. If it's lightning, it's fine, charge stuff is just buffing it. If it's fire, blazing critical could buff it too. So swap the gems, like get rid of blazing if you have too much fire, for example, or don't use charge stuff at all if you have too much lightning. But generally, I believe that just buffing the build with that is definitely going to improve your performance. For the Trinity, you still need one support, it's currently Fire Mastery for me. There is a way to level up the skill on the amulet to level 20, but I believe at the moment it's a little too expensive. There is a perfect flux which gives you upgrade the skill on an item to level 20, but at the moment it costs about 12 divines. If you think it's going to give you a little more damage, it's definitely worth it. If not, it's absolutely alright, you can just proceed further with a basic level 17 or level 18 amulet, you're going to be just fine. Just don't forget to get Fire Mastery for it. And for the rest of the skills, not much changed. For Killing Palm, it's still Thrill of the Kill, Charge Profusion, Blazing Critical, and Rage. Herald of Ashes Magnified Area, same for Ghost Dance. For basic Whirling Assault, I'm using Rage, Ancestral Call, Pinpoint, Efficiency, and Elemental Armament. It's about 41,000 damage at the moment. However, there is an interesting part. Keep in mind, if your crit is going too far and like too high, you can just add Blindside instead of Pinpoint Critical. It's going to lower your tooltip damage, but pretty often you're going to end up with more real damage in the game, especially since you have a lot of ways to blind enemies. You're blinding with Hollow Focus, you're blinding with Wind Dancer. So it's definitely recommended keep that option in mind, because using Pinpoint could be subpar in a lot of situations. Same goes for Elemental Armament. If you have Rakiatas or Garukhan or any other cool option for Whirling Assault, feel free to replace first Pinpoint and second Elemental Armament, because both of those options are practically temporary if you're playing on lower budget or if you don't want to invest too much in the build for any reason. And for the bell, right now I'm using Magnified Area, Ancestral Call, Close Combat, Durability, and Blindside. If you have a big issue with mana regeneration, you also have an option to get an Unseen Oath. It's pretty cheap at the moment, you can get one for 7 Exalted, and that's a pretty nice thing, which is mana leech from supported skills recover based on elemental damage types instead of physical. So if you're not leeching good enough, you can just replace Close Combat at Tempest Bell with Unseen Oath. And that's going to be pretty much it. However, for me, I'm feeling pretty nice just with the basic setup, even if I would use Blindside instead of Pinpoint at the moment. The lower part of the tree is still staying the same. I have Melding on the amulet added, and reaching Subterfuge and Harness the elements. I think at higher levels there could be an option when I'm just going to swap that part, but at the moment it's working pretty nice. Right here I still have Stupefy and decent hits together with the crits, and additional points just go to small nodes which are giving both evasion and energy shield. That way it could be 6.6 or closer to 7,000 energy shield. I lost a little when I swapped the amulet, and 60% evasion, which feels absolutely amazing. So another interesting thing is the jewels. First off, for the jewels, I recommend Heart of the Well with double extra damage and critical damage bonus if it's possible. And for the rest of the jewel, at least at one, I recommend to get Recover maximum mana on kill for your mana situation, together with maximum energy shield and critical damage. And as the last one, you can get energy shield again, and additional stun threshold equal to 14% of maximum energy shield. So that's it for the jewel. You can also use Against the Darkness in that slot if you have it, but I believe at the moment good Against the Darkness with like double extra damage is too expensive, so I don't really believe we need to invest in them. There have been also new passives added, such as Brain Freeze or Brainstorm at top. However, I don't really believe we need any of them, and we can just keep most of the tree the same. In terms of your item progression, everything is pretty straightforward. Gloves is practically like a shot, so triple damage and Arcane Surge would be perfect. Getting some critical would be pretty nice as well. For the belt, go for chevrons. If your budget is high, you could go Headhunter or Mageblood, it's pretty basic. For the boots, it's hybrid with some deflection. Body armor is again as high evasion and energy as possible, and you can get deflection, it will be just perfect. For the rings, you're just aiming to get like as much damage as possible, and quarter stuff is practically the same. Perfectly you'll need +3 elemental damage and like +4 to level 4 melee skills at least. The higher the better. I'm still using the same one that I crafted on day 1. For the helmet, just go as high energy shield as possible. Everything else is playing a very little role, but if you can get crit, it would be nice. Amulet I already showcased. Here the most important stat is +3 level 4 melee skills, but it's already working pretty nice just like that. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope those swap with the amulet, new auras and more charges is going to make the game significantly more comfortable for you, especially since you can just spam Hollow Form much more often in some situations when you need to clear stuff which is too far from you, but you're still regenerating a lot of mana and generating charges just from using Whirling Assault yourself. Thank you for watching again, and see you next time. ronarray out.